President Biden is calling on the intelligence community to step up its efforts to figure out the origins of COVID-19. This comes after a newly obtained intelligence report raised questions about whether the virus escaped from a lab in Wuhan, China, despite an investigation from the World Health Organization in China saying otherwise. The other main theory is that the virus came from human contact with an infected animal. Let's bring in NBCNews.com senior White House correspondent, reporter Shannon Pettypiece, and NBC News correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer in Beijing, China. Shannon, we'll start with you. So earlier this year, U.S. intelligence officials told NBC News they had not ruled out a lab accident as a cause for the pandemic. Facebook now says it will no longer take down posts that question if COVID-19 was man-made. A reminder that we need answers to counter disinformation that can spread so rapidly. So tell us right now, what does the president want to see from the intelligence community?
Well, the president is saying that he doesn't have any definitive conclusion right now, and he wants them to try and get closer to that with this review over the next 90 days. It's unclear what more they're going to be able to find out, because, of course, we know the Chinese have not been cooperative, and international investigators were locked out in the early days of this pandemic when a lot of those answers could have been more easily, deciphered and gotten to. I think, though, the statement we saw from the president goes further than we have heard previously from the administration when it comes to support for this theory it could have emerged from the lab accident. While the administration is saying that there is a low to moderate confidence that that is a likely scenario, that they do say one part of the intelligence community is leaning towards that being the explanation. Now, they go on to say, though, that two other parts of the intelligence community are leaning towards this theory that the virus emerged from human to animal contact. So no definitive conclusion, but this is the strongest statement we have seen from the administration yet, supporting at least the idea and the desire to find out more about whether or not this virus originated from that Wuhan lab.
Janice, I know you had that exclusive access inside the lab last summer. You spoke with officials there. What have they been saying, and what has China been saying about the origins of the virus?
Well, China's position hasn't really changed since we visited the lab last August. Back then, as expected, we had officials there tell us that nobody there had been sick with COVID. They denied that there had been any sort of leak or an accident. Here's the lab's director and what he told us.
I'm confident there's no need.
100%.
100%.
What has shifted slightly in China's position is the vehemency with which the government here believes that the investigation needs to be expanded to other countries, in particular the U.S. So it's now a matter of fighting the lab leak theory with the Fort Detrick theory and raising questions about U.S. transparency. I spoke today with a government advisor to ask him if the U.S. wanted to put investigators on the ground here tomorrow to come up with some answers for the benefit of the world. Would China be willing to do it? And his view was there has to be reciprocation, that China will not be willing to do such a thing unless the U.S. is willing to open up its labs and facilities to Chinese investigators and scientists. The issue now is whether the WHO is going to be allowed to have a team back here. They said at the end of their time here that there would be another phase of this investigation. From what we know, there are no talks right now to have that investigation resume here in China. So if there are these avenues of transmission to explore that might lead to some scientific evidence one way or the other, it's unlikely that those avenues are going to be explored here anytime soon.
Janice, the White House was asked whether they think China would cooperate with an American investigation. Here's what we heard, first of all, during yesterday's press briefing.
I'm not going to prejudge or, make any pre-announcements at this time. We're going to go with the 90-day investigation and see where it takes us from there. China has not been transparent. They need to do more. And so that's what we've been, I think, very vocal about these past several months, and we'll continue to do so.
So, Janice, has China responded to this yet?
Well, China was rather quick in its response to President Biden's statement. The Chinese embassy in Washington released a statement saying that, again, the U.S. is, quote, fixated on this lab theory. They call it lies. They believe that they have been fully transparent and that it's the U.S. that needs to open up its facilities to investigation. And that was repeated today by officials. Throughout the last year, when we've been meeting with different scientists and different officials, we've asked the same question every time. If it meant putting the issue to the rest, would the Wuhan Institute of Virology open up its records to outside scrutiny? And we get the same answer every time, that they believe the lab has been transparent with the WHO, and that is their final answer.
And Shannon, quickly, is the White House saying anything about potential consequences for China if an investigation finds the virus did originate in a lab?
No, and I think that's one of the big questions here, too, that obviously scientifically and from a public health perspective, it is very important to know where this virus originated from. Diplomatically, geopolitically, what does this change if, let's say, the intelligence community gets to some high level of confidence, a definitive conclusion this came from the lab? What then is the response to that from the U.S., from the international community? And that is a question we just don't know the answer to yet.
Shannon and Janice, thank you both so much for your reporting this morning. Appreciate it.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.